Today's lecture is about music history, and we'll be talking especially about the Baroque period. Okay, and so today is about music, and we will talk in English. Hello, Mr. Curry. Good to have you here. I always like to start my music history classes or lectures, whatever, with this little table that I have that shows the main art movements. It's hard for me because it's inverted. It's in order for the screen to be right at you, it has to be inverted for me. It's very weird. So I'm sorry if I go like a little weird. Anyway, so a nice way to start any music history class is talk a little bit about the different time periods, okay, of the main art movements. Hello, Norma Lillian. First of all, this lecture is directed to non-musicians and to non-music history majors, okay? It's intended to make people who think they like classical music, to make them understand a little bit more about classical music, okay? So it's not based on scientific method, although everything I'm going to talk about is true, but this is not a college class, okay? So it's informal. It's just to make people a little happier about classical music, okay? So that's all. So here we go. Main art movements, medieval. Hello, Anne. Good to have you here. Hello, exactly. Music lovers. Make your chart two-sided so you can see it. Oh, Pat, you are so smart. I knew it. I'll think of it next time. Perfect idea. So the main art movements. Medieval music is mainly Gregorian chant. Hello, Mr. Eduardo. Medieval music is basically Gregorian chant. We're not going to talk about it today. Renaissance music, we talked about it last week. In Renaissance music is we're talking most about choirs, polyphony. Hello, Isadora. Hello, Dilson. And then today we're going to talk about Baroque music. Okay, see, 1600 to 1750. We accept that the Baroque music started with the invention of opera in the 1600s, okay, close to 16. We consider that Orpheus by Claudio Monteverdi is the first opera ever written. Historians will fight about this, but many people accept it, okay? So the Baroque period starts with the invention of opera in 1600, and it ends with the death of Johann Sebastian Bach, the greatest Baroque composer. Just a second, it's because I have there we go. Okay, so I'm taking control of many things at the same time here, keyboards and all. Anyway, so Baroque music. Next week we're going to talk about the classical music of Bach, Salieri, Haydn. Then we talk about Romantic period, which is the 19th century, Tchaikovsky, Liszt, Chopin, and then the modern, which is 20th century music. Hello, Leonardo Bodstein. Good to have you here. Anyway, so I like to have that little introduction because it kind of helps us to put it in context. Another thing that helps us to understand a little bit more about the Baroque period is when we talk we see some art of the Baroque period. Last week we talked about Renaissance art. This is Renaissance art, okay? This is Renaissance art from last week. They like the Greek mythology. They like Greek perspective, so it's pastel colors. They like Greek. They go back to Greek culture. This is Renaissance. Also in Renaissance, I love this painting. You see that everybody looks like Putin. I did this joke the other time. Look at him, look at her. Everybody looks like Vladimir Putin. This is the Renaissance, the Flemish Renaissance, okay? Now, in contrast to that, we have today's art, which is the Baroque. Look at this painting, if you can see it, because it's kind of... Okay, there we go. There is, we call this technique Chiaroscuro. It's very hard to see, but you see contrasts, deep contrasts. Everything is either very black or very white. This is called Chiaroscuro. There's great contrasts. Look here, another one with great contrasts. Look at this. You see the candle, you see the lady, but in the back you don't see anything. It doesn't make any difference. That's called chiaroscuro. It's dark in the back. Okay, chiaroscuro means dark light, or like light dark. Anyway, I just wanted to show you those paintings so that you can identify, you can link the music that we're going to hear with the paintings of the time. Right? I always find that interesting. So, a little bit about the Baroque. In arts and architecture, we're talking, in arts, emotion is the first time that artists are being able to depict emotions in painting. Until the Renaissance, it was hard. I mean, think about it. One thing is for you to, I say, okay, paint or draw a person. One thing is to draw a person. The other thing is I say, draw a sad person. Oh my God, that's very complicated. I mean, what features you have to control in order to portray a sad person or a happy person, okay? So you have emotions, details, great details, you know. Remember Baroque churches, they have all those little things that, you know, many details. And the chiaroscuro, which I mentioned, you know, dark, light, very great contrast. And it's more or less the same thing in music. You have great emotion. The Baroque music, I mean, you listen to Baroque music and you are kind of traveling in time. Malcolm, essa aula aconteceu em português às 16 horas. Às 17 horas é em inglês, ok? Semana que vem tem às 16 horas em português. So you have emotions, you have details, many little ornaments. The same way that we have ornaments in architecture, you have ornaments in music. It's very interesting. Tonality, oh my God, talk about tonality. What happens is, it's very hot in here. What happens is, until the Renaissance, we didn't have tonality exactly. We had our harmony based on modes, or church modes. So it was modality, not tonality. It's hard to explain, but the type of music that we associate with European music, starting in the 17th century, it sounds very familiar to us. From the 16th century to 17th century to nowadays, it sounds very familiar to us. Mostly it's because of tonality. Have you heard that story that the fish doesn't know what the sea is? It's because everything he sees is the sea. Everything he sees is water. It's the same thing with us. Everything we see is tonal. Everything we hear is tonal. So we don't quite know what is atonal or what is non-tonal music. We hear non-tonal music and we think, oh, exotic. That's how we behave, okay? Counterpoint and fugue, I'm not going to explain these things, but it's good for you to go to Wikipedia and figure out what those things are. I don't have, you know, I'll spend the whole day talking about it. What I would like to talk today and hear is a little bit of Baroque music. It's very hard to choose for a 30-minute lecture the main Baroque composers, because it doesn't matter who I choose, I will obviously be leaving out a lot of people. Okay, so these are some of my favorite composers, and I chose one from each country, one from different countries, so that we could have a general idea of what is going on. Okay, so this is the Baroque. We'll start in France with Jean-Baptiste Lilly. Let me get my keyboard here so that I can control what music we're going to be listening to. And a great challenge for today, and this happens every time you're broadcasting something live, is because there's software today that hears the music that we're listening to, and it detects the copyright and say Alex does not have the copyright to this music, and then blocks the transmission. So should this happen, it's not my fault, okay? Should this happen, it's not my fault. But let's listen to some music by Jean-Baptiste Lilly, okay? Jean-Baptiste Lilly, attention. Are you gonna play? No! Let me see here. Oh, here. There. This is a French overture. It's a French overture to a French opera by Jean-Baptiste Lilly. Yes, with music, Ionisi. So, opera overtures at the time were like, hey, sit down, shut up, because we're gonna start the show, okay? So it's very interesting how it works. And it's the first time in the Baroque period. The Baroque is the first time that we hear orchestras. Orchestras, okay? Listen to this. What is an orchestra? You have different families of instruments. So you have strings, you have woodwinds, brass, percussion, an orchestra. Different families of music in the same ensemble. So that's an orchestra, okay? And we didn't have orchestras like we have today. We didn't have orchestras before the Baroque period. In Renaissance, they had instruments. They had many different instruments, of course, but not in what we call an orchestra. Okay, so an orchestra is something that happens starting in the Baroque period. This is one of the greatest musician inventions. Interesting. This guy, Jean-Baptiste Lilly, he was born, he is considered French. He was a composer of Louis XIV, the court of Louis XIV. He composed opera for the king. He was very famous, he was rich, etc., etc. But he was born Giovanni Battista Lully in Italy. Why did he change his name to Jean-Baptiste Lilly and went to France? Because everybody wanted to go to Paris at the time, okay? Paris was the center of the universe. It was like New York. If you can make it there, you make it anywhere, okay? So this is why people wanted to go to Paris. And so did Lilly. Lilly also became very famous because he is, to my knowledge, the only musician that kind of had an accident with a big baton, okay? The baton is that stick that the conductor waves. Well, it's kind of a modern invention. They hadn't invented that in the Baroque period. So they had a big old, I don't know how to call this, but a big old, huge stick, I don't know how to call that, that they would stomp on the floor in order to mark time. Okay, so boom, punk, punk, and he hit his own foot, and he had gangrene, and he died. That's why he became famous. Well, he was a great musician too, but you know, ordinary people love these stories. Oh, Beethoven was deaf. Oh, Schubert had syphilis. We love these ideas. So he died because he hit his own foot and gangrene, and he died. Very interesting. So this is Giovanni Battista Lully, Jean-Baptiste Lilly. Going to England now, we're going to talk a little bit about Henry Purcell. Henry Purcell in England, okay? Purcell composed this beautiful opera called Dido and Aeneas. Dido and Aeneas. It's about the Trojan War. It's very interesting. Go Wikipedia it, okay? Wikipedia it. Let's listen a little bit to Purcell's Dido and Aeneas. No, that's not it. hear how much emotion there is in this music? I mean, you hear it exactly, Valeria. It's marvelous. It's a lament. You hear the emotion there. I can't play much because Facebook will bring the recording down. Okay, so. But this is the emotion that you will find in the Baroque period. This is what I was talking about. It's not, I mean, the most important thing in music is to convey emotion. This happens in the Baroque period, and later on will happen in the Romantic period. But between those two, in the Classical period, that won't happen, okay? So you have emotion in the Baroque period, you have no emotion in the Classical period, you have emotion again in the Romantic period, okay? Who else I'm going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about, oh yes, why not? George Friedrich Handel. Observe. George Friedrich Handel, here. I put him as Germany/Italy/England, George Friedrich Handel. And you will see his name written many different, you see many different spellings for his name. And this is exactly because he lived in many different countries. He's a citizen of Europe. He was born in Germany. He was trained in Italy as an Italian opera singer. That's very important because, as an Italian opera composer. Handel became famous later on in England as an Italian opera composer. Okay. It's very interesting to observe that because Handel traveled throughout the whole Europe, like Mozart did later on in the Classical period. And this will be interesting because when we talk about Bach, we will talk Johann Sebastian Bach. We will talk that Bach didn't travel. It's very. I mean, he didn't go out of like a 100-mile radius. So it's amazing that that happened. Handel traveled the whole known Europe, and he became very famous, especially in England. He became an English citizen, and I think he's buried in Westminster. I'm not sure, but I think he is. And everybody knows this by Handel, right? Observe. To stop. I hate it, but I have to stop because if I let too much, the system will crash because it identifies the song and it says Alex doesn't own the copyright to this. And people say, well, but Handel died like 300 years ago. Who has the copyright? The orchestra has the copyright. The performer, the recording company. So that's why we can't broadcast using other people's works, okay? So I have to play just a little bit, and otherwise I'll be making money off of it, whatever. Firmino says that Handel is indeed buried in Westminster, and he stepped on his grave by chance. I apologize, Firmino, but if it was Bach, I would kill you, but Handel is okay, no problem. But anyway, what is this hallelujah thing that we just heard? This is the hallelujah, everybody knows this, which is one movement from a great oratorio called Messiah, okay? What is an oratorio? An oratorio is an opera without sets, without costumes, And why would someone do an opera without costumes and without sets? And that's what keeps me awake, right? No. What happens is opera was not very popular with the Pope and with churches in general. They thought it was indecent. Opera is very indecent. And then the composers kind of negotiated with the Pope and with churches. They said, wait a minute, what if we do operas based on church subjects, and then we don't have sets, we don't have costumes, everybody sings with their books open? Said the Pope, that is interesting, you can do that. And then there you go, oratorios. Okay, so oratorios are basically operas without costumes and sets and performed in church. Okay, nowadays they're not performed in churches anymore. Messiah became one of the most famous oratorios, and you see them and you see it in theaters. Anyway, okay, what else? Listen to this. Listen to this. See what you're gonna think. What is this? Oh, you heard this in the deodorant commercial, right? Wrong. This is Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, okay? Antonio Vivaldi, there you go. Antonio Vivaldi, 1678, 1741. And Vivaldi was known as the Red Priest. The Red Priest. Was he communist? Was he Republican? No! He had red hair, okay? And he was a priest. Therefore, the Red Priest, Vivaldi. Vivaldi worked a long time in a place called Ospedale della Pietà, at the orphanage of the Mercy, okay, in Venice. Remember that Vivaldi is considered a Venetian composer, not an Italian composer. Of course he's Italian, but this is before the Italian unification, which happened in the 19th century. So Vivaldi is mainly a Venetian composer. And because he was Venetian, it was a priest, of course he was subjected to the Pope, but realized that because Italy was fragmented, he had some freedom. Okay, he wasn't, so he was a composer, and he composed opera himself. Remember that I said that the Pope didn't like opera very much? Well, but he had some layaway with that. Most of his music, most of Vivaldi's music, the written music, was lost in Teatro La Fenice, which means the Phoenix. It was named Phoenix because it burned down and then it was rebuilt. La Fenice, and well, I'm sorry, in the 20th century it burned down again. But in the first time it burned down, a lot of Vivaldi's music was lost. So that's why we don't have much of Vivaldi's music. We know that he wrote more than 50 operas, but we don't have much material on it. We do have some arias that were found, but not full operas. I may be mistaken about this, but I know that many of his operas were lost in La Fenice. This I know for sure. And this, we heard, this is the Four Seasons, right? The Four Seasons is four concerti, four concertos. Observe. Violin solo, two violins actually. Two violins dueling, and then an orchestra will come in. This is what a concerto is. A concerto is orchestra plus soloist or soloists. So we're hearing the two violins, and then suddenly the orchestra comes in. It dialogues with the violins. So, observe. Okay? So you have violins and you have the orchestra. So this is a concerto. A concerto is something that is invented during the Baroque period. A concerto in this sense, okay? Usually 3 movements: fast, slow, fast. Why? Because it was fashionable, okay? Why did people wear mustache in the late 70s and then now they're wearing again? Well, because it's fashionable, okay? I said that the second movement of the concertos are usually slow. Observe this other concerto by Vivaldi, The Red Priest, and this is for 2 oboes in orchestra. Listen to this, it's gorgeous. To interrupt because of copyright, but this is one of Vivaldi's concerti for 2 oboes and orchestra. Go to YouTube, take note of these things. Why aren't you taking notes? Okay, or come back to this video, which is going to be on my profile. Okay, but go to Wikipedia, go to YouTube, you hear many oboe concertos by Vivaldi. Vivaldi was a fantastic composer for oboe, okay? Really great. And now we talked about Lilly in France, we talked about Purcell in England, we talked about Handel in Germany, Italy, England, and we talked about Vivaldi in Italy. And then now we have Johann Sebastian Bach, which is, for me, the main composer that has ever lived. It's as simple as that, okay? I'm not alone in this one. Many people think that. And for me, the Holy Trinity is Johann Sebastian Bach, Louis Armstrong, and Pichinguinha, which many English speakers won't know. But for me, it's Johann Sebastian Bach, Louis Armstrong, and Pichinguinha. Amen, okay? Johann Sebastian Bach for you. What instrument is this? Enough because of copyright, unfortunately. But this is the Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach. You can go to Wikipedia or YouTube and you hear this, the whole thing, okay? What is deeply irritating about Bach is that he can, he did compose for many different instruments. It always sounds like he was a virtuoso in each of these instruments. So he writes for the organ as if he were an organist, for the cello as if he were a cellist, for the harpsichord as he was a harpsichordist. Okay, so it's amazing how well he writes to all instruments and voices. It's unbelievable. For example. cello. Suite number 1 for cello solo. Okay, we're going to talk about suite later on. Suite, S-U-I-T-E, suite, is an ensemble of dances. Okay, dances are very important in the French culture. And you say, wait a minute, but isn't Bach German? Yes, but remember when I told you that everybody wanted to go to Paris, that France was the center of the universe at the time? So French dance, ballet, French dance was very important. So everybody wanted to imitate. So that's why the suite, and it's even in French, suite, and all the names of the dances, sarabande, bourrée, courante, gigue, they're all in French because France was the center of the universe. Okay? Kimberly Lockwood, good to have you with us from Columbia, Missouri. So, cello, organ. What about this? This is the well-tempered clavier. Bach wrote the well-tempered clavier to prove that temperament worked. What is temperament? Go to Wikipedia. I don't have time to explain. I'll just say that it's a way of tuning instruments that Bach managed to prove. One of the persons that managed to prove that he worked well. So the well-tempered clavier is a 96 movement piece. Oh my God! 2 books with 96 movements in all keys, major and minor, and he writes 1 prelude and 1 fugue in each key, major and minor. That's why 96 movement, okay? This is another movement from the well-tempered clavier. It's played on the piano by Glenn Gould. This is the version that I like the most when I'm in traffic jams. See, it's not about how many notes you play, but it's about which notes you play. It moves your heart. This is what the Baroque period is about, okay? Moving your heart, okay? Let's talk a little bit about the cantatas. Oh, I love this one. Rachel Blomquist, welcome! So, this is a choir movement from a Bach cantata. What is a cantata? It's kind of a small oratorio. It's a short oratorio, about 20-30 minutes. And he wrote each cantata for church services at the time. Okay, he was the Kapellmeister at his church, and which means the music director of his church, a Lutheran church, and he would write these cantatas for each Sunday service. He wrote more than 200 cantatas. Okay, so think about this. Just think about this. He wrote 200 cantatas. He produced about 23 kids with obviously the help of his 2 wives. But I mean, this man was Superman. Okay, Superman. And each cantata is about 20-30 minutes long. He wrote more than 200 cantatas. So just for you to have an idea of how much music this man wrote. Okay. Now, there are some, what I will call huge cantatas, some long cantatas, and they have a special name. There are 2 of them. They're called Passions. Okay, there's the St. John Passion and the St. Matthew Passion. Historians, you know, there's apparently he started a St. Luke cantata but didn't finish or wrote a smaller work. And then there's some Mark cantata which is not recognized as Bach's work. Apparently someone very smart decided to imitate Bach and pretend like oh, I found this in Bach Cantata. Not true. Okay, so Bach has two passions. I'm sorry, Saint John and Saint Matthew. What is a passion? It's very it's a big cantata where obviously Bach is telling the Passion of Christ, and this is a chorale from a cantata, a Bach chorale, okay? It's a special movement in the cantata where the audience, which is actually the congregation, will sing together. It's very smart because it keeps the audience alive and awake, okay? But the cantata and the passions, they will tell the passions, I'm sorry, will tell the story of the Passion of Christ. Okay, go to Wikipedia once again, or actually you can hear the full cantatas on YouTube. Saint John Passion. I'm sorry, Saint John Passion by Bach and the Saint Matthew Passion. They're long, about 2 hours each, but they're really worth it. Okay, Isadora is asking how many people participating on these cantatas. Were they supposed to be played by an orchestra? Yes, orchestras in the Baroque period, they weren't as big as nowadays orchestras. So let's say 12, 16 people in the orchestra, then about the same number in the choir, 16. And you have the soloists, okay, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, okay? And yes, they used the orchestra. Now, Bach also composed concertos. Listen to this. This is the Brandenburg Concerto number 2. Observe, orchestra, violin, back to orchestra, oboe, orchestra, recorder, flauta doce, recorder, orchestra, trumpet, back to orchestra. Okay. And because of copyright, I have to interrupt. But so what happens here? Remember that I told you that concertos are kind of symphonies with soloists. So what are the soloists here? We have violin, oboe, trumpet, and recorder, flauta doce para os brasileiros. So recorder, Bach is showing off here his soloists in the beginning, and that's what a concerto is. Okay, solo plus orchestra. Okay, he composed 6 Brandenburg concertos. They're all gorgeous. Go to YouTube, type Brandenburg concertos. Number 5 is my favorite, but I can't play here because it's too long. There's a harpsichord cravo, harpsichord solo on the first movement, which is just amazing. Brandenburg Concerto, number 5, first movement, harpsichord solo. Okay, now what I'm gonna talk. Oh, the orchestral suites. Remember that I told you that a suite is an ensemble of dances. Bach wrote orchestral suites. Observe. This is the overture to the orchestral suite number 2. See how dense it is? It's a French overture. Remember Lilly in the beginning of the lecture? French overture, okay? And then we have different dances. A dance, a Baroque dance. This is a sarabande. They're not dances to be danced, they're dances to be listened to, okay? Stylized dances. We heard a rondo, then a sarabande. This is a bourrée. A dance. See the sound, the Baroque orchestra sound? It's a small orchestra. A polonaise. A minuet. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 6, 1. A badnerie. I love this one. So all these songs that I played, they're part of the same suite, the Orchestral Suite number 2. Beautiful. This is the Orchestra Suite number 2. Hello, Sarah. Welcome from Columbia, Missouri. And to end this lecture, I'm going to play a little bit of the Orchestra Suite number 3 in D. Everybody knows this, but you probably don't know that it's from the Suite number 3. Listen to this. So, and with this suite number 2 or 3, the Orchestra Suite number 3, I will finish this lecture. This has been great. This is the second of 2 lectures that I gave. Last week we talked about Renaissance music, today Baroque music. Next Monday at 5 p.m. Brasilia time, 4 p.m. New York time, 3 p.m. Center, 2 p.m. Mountain, 1 p.m. Seattle time. I will talk about classical music, Mozart, Haydn, okay? Thank you, Pat, thank you very much. And Firmino asks, what about choral works like Bassi Minor Magnificat? One of the hardest things about a lecture like this, it's choosing music. How will I talk about Baroque music in 1 hour and talk about everything? You can't. So this was just for non-musicians to understand a little bit about the sound of Baroque music. If you can come back next week and hear classical music, music from the classical period, in contrast to this, you can compare, and that's all we want here. Okay, this is a very introductory lesson on Baroque music. Okay, in my timeline you will find the lecture on Renaissance music, which you can compare with this one. Okay, it was great having you all here. This is Alex Innecco from Brasilia, Brazil. It's 10 to 6 p.m. here. We're all quarantined. This is crazy. To all my friends around the world who are watching this, there's people from Germany here, people from Columbia, Missouri, people here from Brasilia, people from Rio de Janeiro. I wish you all the best, and may we be together in these crazy times, and may we survive. I hope so. see you next week. Or, oh yes, tomorrow on ECAI's Instagram, tomorrow, Tuesday, on ECAI's Instagram, at ECAI BSB, ECAI BSB, at ECAI BSB. Para os brasileiros, @ECAI BSB. Tomorrow, from tomorrow to Friday, I'll have interviews in Portuguese and English, depending on the person who I interview. Musicians from around the world, which I'm going to be talking to. 4 p.m. Brasilia time, 3 p.m. New York time, 2 p.m. Colombia time, Central time, 1 p.m. Mountain time. Anyway, 4 p.m. New York time. I hope to see you there tomorrow, okay? ECAI BSB in Instagram. Thank you, Jonathan, for putting it there. Folks, it was great having you here. Thank you very much for being with me, and I'll see you next week or tomorrow on Instagram, okay? Peace!